Welcome to the Through These Gates podcast. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore. This is the most rational Nebraska football show on the internet. Boy, oh boy, wasn't that fun. Wasn't that fun. You got to go to Memorial Stadium for the home opener. I know everyone said the Cincinnati game's technically a home opener. This was the real home opener, the official home opener. You've got the boomers with their season tickets that sit there and yell at you for cheering too loud. And, and now we've thrown $18 Bud Lights into the mix, or so I've been told. I haven't gone to the game yet, or to a game at Memorial yet, since they brought out the liquor, because there's only been one. But I've been told it costs you a pretty penny if you want to booze at the stadium. I'll tailgate. I'll stick to tailgating. I'll just pregame, give me plenty of time to sober up before the ride back to Omaha during the game. That's how I've always done it. I don't think that's going to change if they're really charging $18 for a Bud Light. But you go to Arrowhead or any other stadium, that you're going to pay the same amount there. I think if you go to like the arenas like CHI, Pinnacle, PBA, places like that, you'll pay like $9 or $10 for a beer, which is still absurd and ridiculous. But it's all about perspective. When you've been quoted at $18, a $9 beer seems like a deal. So whatever. Enjoy your expensive Bud Lights. But I'll tell you what, beer prices aside, wasn't that nice? Didn't that feel good? Wasn't it nice to see Nebraska finally come out and beat the brakes off of a team that had no business being in the same stadium as them? When's the last time you've seen that? I'm not talking last year against UTEP. I'm talking just complete and utter domination in every phase of the game. When's the last time you've seen that? It was the coach's dream, because you blanked them. You almost scored 70 points. You should have scored about 80 on them, to be perfectly honest, because you choked in the red zone twice, which is why it's a coach's dream, because not only did you go out and dominate your opponent, you left them with film criticisms. Matt Rhule's got things he can go back and point to and say, hey, we played a great game, but here's why you shouldn't get a big head. Here's what you did wrong. That's what I like the best about this game, is it is a coach's wet dream. And you bet your ass Rhule is going to be up their ass about their red zone performance, which has always been a concern for Nebraska for as long as I can remember, since, Pelini left the Big Red. So that goal line performance is a little sus. The defensive line, you gave up like 5.5 yards to one of the most, I'm going to be honest, Akron might be the worst FBS team in the country. They've been blanked twice now. Shut out by Wyoming. I understand that game was a little bit closer. And then absolutely demolished to the point where they probably don't want to play football anymore by Nebraska. By the way, that's what I want. I want demoralizing victories against lesser tier opponents. I seriously, I want them on the bus ride back, because Akron can't afford a plane. I want them on the bus ride back to be asking themselves, is this really worth it? Do I want to come to practice on Monday, or should I just go sell insurance? That's what we want when Akron comes to Lincoln. That's what should happen. No 35-13 Northern Illinois game from a couple years, Louisiana Tech or whoever that was. None of that. Complete and utter dominance. There's also, if you're a fan of streak and curse busting like I am, this was the game that got rained out in Scott Frost's debut. I was there. I remember it. I remember sitting in a bar in Lincoln because there was rumor that they were going to start the game back up at 1 a.m., and we didn't want to miss it. We didn't want to be halfway back to Omaha by the time it started. Didn't happen, obviously, but it was an omen of things to come. And to be able to go out and get a second chance at this team and beat the shit out of them, I think is a positive for a lot of Nebraska fans. It's like, whoo, that's off our back. Wasn't a big deal, but it's just one more thing we can put to bed, is that cursed Akron game. Our last memory of Akron is no longer that game getting rained out, which means we need to get a game against Georgia Southern on the schedule within the next couple years here. So that was a positive. I mean, this was, for the most part, I can't be too nitpicky about it. Dylan Raiola looked like a top 5 college quarterback. I understand it was Akron, but I didn't see a lot of the struggles that we saw last year with him. If the kid is nothing else, he is deadly accurate. Deadly accurate. Everyone was giving him shit for the Cincinnati game when the offense didn't really do all that much. And I told you that was a really vanilla game plan by Nebraska against a Cincinnati defense that was selling out and willing to let us try to nickel and dime them to death if it meant that we wouldn't get the big play. So Raiola did what good quarterbacks do and took what the defense gave him. I mean, that's seriously. If you look at successful I hate to keep going back to the Cincinnati game, but if you look at successful quarterbacks, whether it's college, the NFL, or whatever, they take what the defense gives them. They don't force throws against inopportune defensive sets, right? Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, all those guys. If you're playing way back, not wanting to give up the big play, Tom Brady would be more than happy to pick you apart for 6 to 12 yards of play. 6 to 12 yards of pass every play. He'll go down the field on you. He doesn't care. It's not about the stats for that, and Dylan did that in the Cincinnati game. Now, in the Akron game, it was just such an overmatch of talent, I don't think it mattered what they ran, that we just blew them out. Just absolutely humiliated them. And, I mean, Dylan Raiola, 364 yards, 80% completion percentage, 11.7 yards per attempt, 24 out of 31, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. How do you have a better game than that? That's the game we needed. And he did this in like 2.5 quarters, keep in mind. That's the game we needed from him. Those are the stats that even if it's against a garbage team, puts your QB on the map. It's like, okay, he can go out and ball out. He's capable of it. You've got Ja'Cory Barney, 7 catches, 132 yards. How about Isaiah Hunter? Isaiah Hunter. Everyone was talking about Dane Key, who had a decent game, 3 catches, 35 yards, a touchdown. Isaiah Hunter, though, might be the grab of the offseason. That guy had some phenomenal plays against Cincinnati, then comes out and balls out. 4 catches, 82 yards, averaging over 20 yards a catch against Akron. Isaiah Hunter looks like a stud, and we've got at least another year left to him, I bet. I mean, this is a kid who's going to give Big Ten defensive coordinators headaches for years to come. You know who else is going to? Isaiah Mosey. I don't think it's possible for one man to tackle that guy. First contact, he's juking out. I don't think it's possible for him to be tackled by a single defender. And I think what we saw is that Mosey's natural position is not running back. I understand he's there right now out of necessity, more so than being a luxury. Isaiah Mosey has a future in college football in the Power 5, Power 4, and it's at receiver. And that was on display. I thought they did a decent job. I thought Quentin Ives looked pretty good. They did a decent job at, like I said, trying to establish that number 2 running back. And Emmett Johnson under 20 carries, which is also a plus. Remember, I said I did not want Emmett. We do not want Emmett Johnson getting 25 touches a game. That is not sustainable if this offense is going to have any semblance of a running game going into the fourth quarter of the season. Those last couple of games there. Overall, what is there to complain about? Honestly, what is there to complain about? TJ Lateef looks like the future. Am I exaggerating? Maybe a little bit. Yeah. It was Akron. End of the game. You had a demoralized defense. But still, 6 out of 7, 90% completion percentage, 128 yards, throwing 3 rushes, 17 yards, and a touchdown on top of that. We got a backup court. This is the first time we've got a QB room that doesn't look like a total disaster. Raiola looks fantastic, as advertised. He may, at this point, we're not going to say it, we're not going to stamp it home yet, but at this point, he looks like he did what I said he needed to do, which was made that second-year jump. You've got TJ Lateef, who's the promising freshman. Athletic freak. Looked fantastic in a limited session. Then you got Jalen Gramstead, 5th or 6th year senior? There's your experience guy. That's the guy that keeps the boat steady. He's not going to come in and throw 25 completions for 300 yards, but he'll rock the boat steady. He's that veteran presence. You've got Davila behind him. the transfer guy. We've got a good quarterback room. And props to Matt Rhule and co. Because specifically in today's day and age of the transfer portal, where everybody wants to start right away, and all this stuff, you got out and you've got one of the most complete quarterback rooms in the Big Ten right now. If you look at it on paper, there's talent, there's potential, there's experience. There's some raw players like Davila. I mean, they're building something special on that offense, and I hope Dana Holgorsen sticks around for a couple years. By the way, love the Zin. Love the Zin. A little Zin popping from Dana there. Can't complain about that one either, huh? Quinn Clark, by the way. Now, I know I was on like my third glass of bourbon of the night when Quinn Clark caught that touchdown. But I said it right there. As soon as he caught that touchdown, I went, that looked like Randy fucking Moss. You got 6'5", skinny, burning through the defense, catches the ball perfectly in stride, and just nobody had a chance at tackling him. Again, I know it's against Akron. Who cares? The other thing I really liked about this is they didn't pull the starters after the first half when it was well within hand. We're not Ohio State. We're not Oregon. We're not Georgia. Okay? These players have not earned the right to sit for an entire half of football. These reps and these blowout games are necessary for our starters because they need to go out and they need to play a complete game to where the coach can look at it and go, okay, we got what we needed out of this one. We didn't just go in and get the win and then pull the starters out. The starters got meaningful reps later into the game that was almost used at that point as a glorified practice. And again, I know it's Akron. We keep going back to that. But to get that type of mojo from just an absolute beatdown for your starters, I think is necessary heading into Michigan. So let's do grades real quick. Coaching A+. A+ from everything, from limiting Emmett's touches to trying to find that backup running back, to getting some receivers who don't see a lot of playing time the ball, like Quinn Clark, to managing it, to keeping Dylan and the starters in for 2.5 quarters rather than just pulling them when the game was out of hand. I give the coaches an A+. I don't see Dana Holger. It was going to be an A, but Dana Holgorsen popping a Zin in the second quarter gave me the A+. Pushed him over the edge. So coaching gets an A+. Quarterbacks. How do I criticize any of these quarterbacks? 80% completion, 4 touchdowns, no picks, over 300 yards. A+. A+ for the quarterbacks. It should be an A+ against Akron. I'm not grading on a curve here. You throw 364 yards against Akron or Ohio State, I'm still going to give you an A+. I don't care who you're playing. Running backs. A-. A- because, you got Emmett Johnson, 14 rushes, 140 yards. How do you argue with 10 yards of carry? He busted a long one off. He was a factor in the passing game, 2 touchdowns. But he's got that fumble on the goal line. Fumble on the goal line holds him back. Mekhi Nelson, I don't see anything there. I don't see anything there with Nelson. I think Quentin Ives looks solid. I think Quentin Ives, I think if I had to pick going into this Houston Christian game, Quentin Ives is probably RB2. I don't know who else you give it to. Who else had a better game than him? Ives hit a 28-yard rush, but he was a factor in the passing game. He was, of the two, yeah, that's who I'm going to go with. I don't think they want to play Connor Booth yet. I don't know. Kenneth Williams appears to just be a special teams guy right now. I can't imagine they're going to get him any significant playing time. If we're at a point where Kenneth Williams a walk-on, no offense to him, but if we're at a point going, 8 games into the season, deep into Big Ten play, and Kenneth Williams is taking meaningful snaps, we're in trouble. That means we've had some injuries, some guys transferred, didn't work out, whatever the case may be. Receivers, A+. A+, Ja'Cory Barney, Isaiah Hunter, all of them. How do I give them anything other than an A+ for receivers? All of them balled out. Tight ends. Tight ends will get B+. B+. Lindenmeyer catching his first touchdown. Harburg had a grab. I'll give... You got to give him a B+. It would have just been a B, but he popped the question at the end of the game. That seems to be a thing. kids just getting engaged younger and younger and younger now. I couldn't imagine having been engaged in college. That would have been just weird to me. But that's their thing. You know what? Good for them. I'm happy for them. Go out and we need more. We need more of the right people getting married and having kids, because it's seems to be a dying trend nowadays. So I'm glad that good for him. So B+ for the tight ends. I give the offensive line another B+. It wasn't a dominant performance, but it was a solid one. It was a solid one. I didn't see him blowing anybody off the ball to the extent that they would get him into A territory, because it's hard. I mean, it's hard to grade the offensive line. They didn't give up any sacks, though. Didn't really have any negative yards. They got the job done in the running game. It was a good game. B+ for the offensive line. Defensive line, here we go. C. You got Petrzak looked good on that safety down there, so I gave him credit for that. I can't be too harsh on a defensive line that gave up 0 points regardless of who they played. However, it's like I said, you've got a running back who averaged 5.5 yards per carry on a pretty bad offense, which goes into the linebackers, gives me a B-. It just, there are concerns with the front seven. I think Petrzak, and look, no disrespect to him, he's going to be a freak on this defensive line in a couple years. That's going to be another Ty Robinson. That's going to be, I'm not going to go as far to say Sue, but that's going to be another Davis twins. That's going to be another Jared Crick, Cade Petrzak at this rate. So keep your eye out for him. However, he's a true freshman. I'm not a fan of starting true freshmen on either line. I think that's a concern if we're having to go deep onto the depth chart and find true freshmen to play meaningful snaps on either offensive or defensive line. Offensive line doesn't appear to have that problem. They're actually getting some depth there. Defensive line, still a massive question mark. And here's the reality, guys. We can beat Akron 68-0 all we want. We can go beat the shit out of Houston Christian next Saturday. If we can't find, it doesn't have to be the defensive line we had a year ago. I'm not saying it does. Anyone who thinks they're going to be able to recreate the defensive line of Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmacher, and Jamari Butler, the production you saw out of that defensive line after losing all 3 of them in a year is out of their mind. They're totally unrealistic. No one's expecting that. We do need to get a serviceable defensive line. And that's why it's good that we saw them getting a lot of different guys in rotation here this week against Akron. Van Poppel, Judy, Petrzak. I mean, we'll see where it goes here. The defensive line could be a problem, though. When we get into these grinding out old school Big Ten West type games where you're playing keep away from each other and we need to go down and get a score or two and we can't get the other team off the field and they're taking 7.5 minutes on each drive because they're ramming the ball down our throat, that's going to be a problem. We're going to be wishing that we invested more in the defensive line and the linebacking core. Marquez Watson-Trent, what did he have, like 1 tackle? I mean, this guy was arguably the most hyped transfer portal acquisition all offseason, and he's been a ghost. I mean, Vincent Shavers looks fine. Willis McGahee had a good play. Wright is what he is. Watson-Trent has been a tremendous disappointment 2 games into the season. So we'll see. I'll give the secondary gets another A+. The secondary is by far the strength of this defense. Deshaun Singleton is going to play on Sundays. Absolutely no doubt in my mind. Sierra Wright, people gave him shit last week because he didn't record a single stat. You guys don't realize there's 2 positions on the field that if they don't record a single stat despite suiting up for the game and starting, it's a good thing. Punter, for obvious reasons, and cornerback. Sierra Wright didn't record a stat against Cincinnati because he shut his side of the field down. He did that again this week, shut his side of the field down. Sierra Wright is a legitimate lockdown player. I don't know if he'll be a first-round pick. That guy, he will get a shot to play on Sunday. Somebody's going to draft Sierra Wright. USC's got to feel stupid for letting him go. You've got 2 NFL players in your secondary right now with Sierra Wright and Deshaun Singleton. That's the most we can say in a long time. Singleton is a tank. I don't know where he's going to play in the NFL, but they'll find a spot for him. Special teams, A+. Ja'Cory Barney gutting people on punt returns. Nebraska's actually returning kicks again. We're actually returning punts. Excuse me. Kyle Kananen, 1 out of 1, 9 out of 9 on extra points. And then the best part was we didn't punt. That's the most I can ask of our punter, is that he never has to see the field. We didn't punt once. His parents came all the way from Australia. Probably they wanted their money back. Do you think the university will reimburse them for their plane tickets? I don't think it's cheap to fly out here. Well, yeah. All in all, the game gets an A. There's not too much to criticize after a 68-0 performance, but there is enough that the coaches will have a little bit of fun this upcoming week. Houston Christian predictions. I doubt there's going to be a spread because it's an FCS team. Yeah, they're not even going to roll with one. I'm going to say 58-10 Nebraska. 58-10 Nebraska. I think we go out and I think you might see them. I was wrong about this week being 38-13 with Nebraska taking their foot off the pedal early. I think now that that's out of the way and they've just utterly destroyed somebody, you might see them take their foot off the brake a little bit earlier. You've gotten those starters, have gotten those reps late into a game that was kind of over. You're going to go into the Michigan game the next week well rested. I think that would put plenty of momentum, but well rested. I hope they don't take their foot off the gas pedal because when the backups come in, I hope they're still throwing the ball downfield because I would like to go into that game with a full head of steam and Michigan missing their head coach. That'll be something to keep an eye on. 58-10 Nebraska is my pick. We will see you guys for the HCU post game. Hopefully we're talking a little Bud Crawford victory celebration too. Throw a bonus in there. That's been our show. See you guys next week. Nuke, Iowa.